Hey everyone, good evening. This is Caswell Cook, and welcome to Caswell Tonight, which is kind of a version of the Caswell Cook show that we've done for many years. But now we're here online, streaming to you from all kinds of different platforms. Some people are watching us on Westerly Live, which is our sister syndicated network. Some people are watching us on my Facebook page. Some people are watching us on the Mesquamaket Beach Facebook page. Mesquamaket Beach, hey, how are you? We do have Mesquamaket news coming up during this week to tell you different things that are happening. So be sure to check back on this page for that. We've had some great guests, and I want to thank my guest from Monday night, Susan Cowsill. She was an amazing guest. It was so fun to have her and Russ, her husband, come on and talk to us and for her to sing those songs for us. I've been listening to her solo album, her first solo album. I think it's called Just Believe. But it's an amazing album. And tomorrow night, we are also honored and privileged beyond words to tell you that we have Gary Puckett from Gary Puckett and the Union Gap. I mean, songs like Young Girl, Woman, Woman. There's just all kinds of amazing hits that Gary Puckett had in the 60s. And he's going to be here live tomorrow night to talk to us about those days. And of course, the Happy Together tour, which he is scheduled to be on this year if things resume. And he may do a song for us if we're lucky. I want to tell you about tonight's guest, though. It's a pleasure for me to have, and we're going to bring him out in a minute. But there's a band that's been coming to Mesquamaket Beach for got to be 15 years now. They're called the Criers. And Joe is the leader of the Criers. He's also the bass player. He's also a vocalist. They put out albums with some tremendous music, and they played that for you here. And they've also backed up a lot of the musicians that we have play at the beach. So they somehow or another, they end up coming here almost every year to Mesquamaket. And we've gone, I even went on the road to Ohio with them once. But they've backed up a ton of people, including our good friend Terry Sylvester, John Ford Coley, Denny Laine. Joe and Bell and the crew have played with a lot of people. They regularly have Steve Holly from Wings as their drummer. Just a tremendous group. And we wanted to catch up all the way from New Jersey if we could bring on tonight's guest, Mr. Joe Orlando.
Hey, Caswell. Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, how are you?
Not too shabby, not too shabby. Hanging in there. You?
Well, I'm doing well. You got the nice shades on.
I sleep with these things on.
I know you do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I think you saw that cool promo we did for you. You do some very good promo pictures. Who takes those photos for you?
Various people do. My wife does a lot. She's a very good photographer. And there was a guy, John Hester, who's a local New Jersey guy. And Brian Hughes, who's a good pal, does a lot of stuff for us. And just people take pictures of us all the time. And some of the folks, you'd be surprised, but maybe not. The amazing amount of talent out there. People who are very artistic and just do those things as a hobby. Have some professionals do it, and they're so talented. It's amazing. Same with musicians. You'd be amazed at the amount of talent that's everywhere. Really.
Well, tell us a little bit about your involvement in music. I know you had a music studio in New Jersey. I was personally went there. Tell us about that. I know you did that until recently. You did it for over 20 years. And then tell us how you came to form the band, The Criers.
Well, let's, I guess maybe do in chronological order. I started the band in 1991 we lived in Brooklyn at the time. And I always wanted to have an original kind of band because we were kids. We were working in bars and things like that. I was working in bars and smoky, bars when I was 14. Right now, your parents would get arrested for that, but that was normal for those times back then. So we played in bars and all that stuff. And then I had my son Joe, whom you know, in 1984. And so I stopped playing for a little bit so that I could, become a respectable citizen. As you can see, that did not work out very well. So at 1991, I started the band The Criers, and we were like an acoustic original band, a 4-piece, kind of the normal stuff, 2 guitars, a bass, and a drum. And we just kind of worked around for a while, and we did that for a long time. And somewhere around 1991, right? Yeah. And so around 1995, my partner, Belle, and I, whom I've known Belle for a very long time, Belle is the keyboard player for the Criers, and she's been in the band basically since we started. In 1995, she was working in New Jersey at a music store, at one of the largest music stores in New Jersey. And so she was kind of working as a piano teacher there. They had their own department. Then they offered to rent out space for people to have their own business. So that was the beginnings of our little studio where we taught piano lessons and sold print music, aside from playing in the band and all that stuff. So, because I started the band in 91, like I said. I asked Belle to come into the band in 1993. And Belle, as you know, Caswell, is a classically trained player. Mm-hmm. You know, Mozart and Chopin, it just oozes out of her, just comes out of her like it's nothing. So she didn't know much about rock and roll. So when I asked her to come in, if she wanted to play in the band, she was very enthusiastic and said yes right away. I said, oh yeah, would love to do it. And then she said, we'll rehearse for about a year, and then we'll go out and play. I said, sweetheart, we've got 13 days to learn 18 songs. Are you in or you out? Again, she responded with her usual enthusiasm, and the rest, as they say, is history. That was around 1992, 1993. So she's been with us for a long, long time. Okay, getting back to the studio. So we started the studio in 1995, and we stayed at this music store till 2005. And then in January of 2006, we opened up our own location, a really nice one. You were there. Yeah. So that up until 2018, we closed it up on February 2018. So that amounts to about 22 years.
Wow. And tell me about the albums that you put out as the Criers.
Well, actually, we've only put out 2. And the reason for that, as you know, because you've come with us on the road, we're performing quite a lot. I mean, you've been kind to us and been really good to us and had us out to. Of course, I begged you a few times, but you've come out and we've and you've had us out at Misquamicut for a long time now. I think the first time was with had to be 2005 or 6 with Ian Mitchell of the Bay City Rollers, right? Yeah, and that was fun.
I think you did 2006 with Denny Laine at one of our music fests.
That's right.
And yeah, it was Denny and Ian Mitchell.
Yeah.
That's right. So that was 13 or 14 years ago now.
Right,
wow.
Right. Yeah, that's when what did you call that concert series where you had the big stages?
Oh yeah, the Misquamicut Music Festival. That was I loved doing that. Oh, that was fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they were all great because we played at a lot of them, and we played the most memorable one, I guess, was with when we had Terry Sylvester. We backed up Terry Sylvester. And that was a huge crowd.
That was great when you guys were on the same bill as Jefferson Starship before Marty and Paul Kantner passed away. Yeah. And that was a big night. And I remember the reception. Terry still points to that show as one of the highlights of his solo, performing. And the video that came out of that was really well done too, with you guys doing Long Cool Woman and He Ain't Heavy. It was good stuff. Now, so let me go back then. When did you first start becoming a backup band to the Stars kind of thing? Because it's like you can play with anyone, and you played with all these people. So where did that start? When was the first time you sort of had that opportunity?
Well, I knew and still know zilch about the music business, so I kind of do my own thing. So years ago, and that was in 2002, I started backing people up. And so what I did was I kind of had to figure out, I had to figure out a way how to get us out there, how to get us performing in public. Because, what happened was, let me backtrack a little bit. Some years before that, we were playing at a bar here close to our area where we live now in Keyport, New Jersey. We played at a little bar. And that night, we were just playing. We did a lot of covers back then. So we were playing, and then 3 fights broke out right in front of where we were playing. There was a pool. We were a little stage. There was a pool table. Anytime there's a pool table and alcohol, you know that there's going to be a fight. That's a given, right? So that happened,
especially in the tri-state area.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that happens, and we're loading gear out as these guys are fighting. So we open the trunk of the car, and they're outside fighting. putting amplifiers and stuff in the car, and then they land on the hood of the car. So Bell said, Joe, I do not want to play bars anymore. I want to play concerts. So the boss lady had spoken. So it was my job then to try to find a way to do that. So I was looking at looking at what was going on, who was performing, and I've always loved, as you know, and as you do too, the British Invasion thing, which is, I've always loved that. So so Billy J. Kramer was playing around in those days. He was out working quite a bit, and I loved all that music and his connection to the.
Can I do my Billy impression real quick?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I want to be honest with you, Joe.
That's it exactly. Hey, Caswell, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I hear from various sources that you do a pretty good imitation of me.
We're going to have a really, really good show for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Really, really good.
Okay. All right. So anyway, oh yeah, Billy J. Kramer. So I called. I called. You got to wear sunglasses to do that, though. So I called his.
I'll be honest with you, Joe. I don't have them.
I really wish you did, Caswell. I really did. So anyway, so I called his agent, and it was fairly, pretty okay money. It wasn't too bad. So I started to. Then I said, okay, so now I got this far. What do I do? So I started to call theaters. I said, well, they must rent these places. So anyway, that's how it got started. I started renting theaters. So for a long time, I rented the theaters and put together the shows myself, and that's how we spent. We were 5 years with Ian Mitchell.
Right.
We were 5 years with Billy J. Great shows. We took Billy J everywhere, and we did quite a few tours in Canada with Ian Mitchell of the Rollers, and that was fun. They used to send us there in February and November when it was like 18 below zero.
Up in Alberta.
Yeah, up in Alberta, exactly. Well, you know what the road is like. You came with us.
Well, I remember
one day
when I was doing the Chad and Jeremy thing.
Right.
And then we did some other stuff with Denny and stuff and Terry. But the Chad and Jeremy thing was a show in Ohio that I think you put together. And so I had the idea of, well, I want you guys to back Chad and Jeremy because they hadn't played with a proper band since 1987.
Right.
And so I remember that you guys learned up their songs and you were still learning them up as I pulled into the Monmouth Academy. And we were doing that song, Throw a Pebble in the Lake from the Ark, and which is an obscure song. And you guys that was my favorite one when you guys did it. But we drove in that truck or that van all the way.
You did a lot of driving.
Right. We went all the way to Ohio, and
back
then I was known as a good merchandise seller. That's why Chad and Jeremy and Terry and them liked me, because I could hawk the merchandise. I'd sell every last damn CD.
Well, I was terrible at that, so I'm glad you came along.
It was fun. And then where else did we go? We went to New Hampshire, I think, once.
New Hampshire, that's correct. Yeah. They had like 2 or 3 stops.
I remember
that was a while ago.
And Kowloon.
Oh yeah, that's right, the Kowloon
gig. I remember driving with Denny, and now Denny did this show a couple weeks ago, and so did Billy J. But I remember I was driving with Denny, and it was weird. It was like 6 a.m, and we're driving over some bridge in New Hampshire, and we're listening to 70s on 7 on my radio, and on comes Let 'Em In. So we're both like exhausted. We're driving, and I'm singing, "Someone knocking at the door," and then he starts singing like his part. And I'm looking over, I'm like, okay, that's surreal. And so, tell me how cool it is when you play with some of these guys and, you're playing a hit like Go Now with Denny Laine and, a huge hit from the 60s. What kind of thrill is that for you guys?
Well, that's something that I'll always hold very dear because these guys were icons to us, and they were our heroes. And to play with Denny and Terry and Billy and these days with John Ford Coley, to actually be a part of those songs and to actually play, and we do a lot of singing, so to actually harmonize and do the parts with Denny and Terry and John and those guys, it's I have to pinch myself to realize how fortunate that I've been in my in I don't know if you could call this a career or not, but it's what I do. But it's
in your adventure.
In my adventure, this is what I do. So, but it's really an amazing thing to look back and to see the videos and to play, to hear it, how it sounded. And I have to say, in all modesty, that I think it was pretty okay. That it was pretty all right, And I'm proud to. We still play with Terry, and that's been 15 years. John, we started with Terry and John around the same time. So with John, it's been kind of 15 years also. And then we took Denny on the road for about 13 years, and that was great fun. And so we're happy to still be around, still be doing it.
Well, you were supposed to be here in July with John Ford Coley, but obviously
Right.
Our governor has other ideas about that show. So
well, they're just trying to keep people safe.
Yeah,
it's. I haven't really thought about all that other stuff that goes with it, but as probably you, I'm sure your first priority is to keep your family safe.
Yeah,
and that's
true.
really where my heart lies.
But we're thankful that we have at least this, to be able to bring some music. And speaking of some music, Joe, maybe we could segue into you picking a song that you might want to play for us tonight here on Caswell.
I have a few. I don't know if there's enough time. I have a few, but I got one especially for you. I spent a lot of time on this, by the way, because I had to record tracks. And I stole a drum track from somewhere. So you can search anything on the internet, because I didn't have a drummer to do it for me. But I did this one especially for you. Okay.
I'm all ears.
So, okay, here we go. You tell me. Like I said, I'm a novice at this. I'm gonna plug in my tracks.
Well, we're gonna let Ben tell you how it sounds.
Okay. I'm too loud. Usually I'm too loud, but here we go. I will always be holding my heart in your hand. I will understand. I will understand someday, one day. You will understand. Always from now until then. When it will be right, I don't know what it will be like. I don't know. We live in hope of deliverance from the darkness that surrounds us. Hope of deliverance. Hope of deliverance. Hope of deliverance from the darkness that surrounds us. And I wouldn't mind knowing that you wouldn't mind going along with my plan. When it will be right, I don't know what it will be like. I don't know. We live in hope of deliverance from the darkness that surrounds us. Hope of deliverance. Hope of deliverance. Hope of deliverance from the darkness that surrounds us. Yeah. Hope of deliverance, hope of deliverance, hope of deliverance from the darkness that surrounds us. I will understand. I will understand.
That was so cool. How did you know that I love that song? Have we talked about that before?
I know that you are a huge Paul McCartney fan, and that's why.
Well, of course. That was from 1993 from the Off the Ground album. That was the first single from the album. And that was when he did the New World Tour that year.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God! It's like nobody sings "Hope of Deliverance." He doesn't even sing "Hope." Well, he has a couple times in the past years, but that's like one of his amazing songs that nobody remembers, and that's amazing that you pulled that one out.
For you, buddy.
Well, thank you so much. That's so cool. Well, so what do you have, planned? First of all, what have you been doing during this whole COVID-19 thing? Obviously, you can't play any gigs.
Well, I've been working on some videos because a lot of people are streaming live and doing things like that. I've been doing kind of the things that I just showed you now. I've been doing some tracks and singing along with them, playing along with them, and presenting that way. I did a nice version of. At least I got a good response anyway. I did a version of Ricky Nelson's "Traveling Man," which is a nice little tune. I did that. That worked out well. I didn't prepare that one up for tonight, but that was nice. And then I did my friends from South America. I think Jessica Bray was watching at the moment, and she has a festival in Brazil, which I've been invited to, and I hope to go. And I did this song for them over there as well. So, but I added some other tracks and took away some things and modified it for tonight's thing. So it took a bit of work, I'll tell you.
Well, that's great. I had no idea. Now, our friend Roger Walsh says, thanking you, Joe Orlando and the Criers. You always do a great job with whoever you are with, even when it's Jimmy McElliott.
Jimmy's a fabulous guy. Jimmy's a great guitar player and a good friend. He's a lovely human being. Really.
Yeah, he was in your band for a while too, which was a cool thing.
Oh yeah, about a year. He hung in there for about a year. This is not a life for everybody, I tell you.
Someone else said, I hope the light at the end of the COVID tunnel is not a train. Well, we all hope that.
Yeah. That's from our other member, Jeff Otis Brown. That's one of his songs that he wrote, The Light. And we performed that at Miss Quamicut a few times over the years.
That's right. So how is Jeff doing? Jeff
is doing good. We speak often because I've kind of brought him back in to do a festival that we do, Abbey Road on the River.
Yes.
So that's on they had a couple scheduled for this year. Obviously, there was one in May that's not going to happen. And then there was one in September here in Long Island. That's not going to happen. So we have one in October in Indiana. And that's so far they're keeping that open. So we're, things go well. And if, things go the way that health-wise for everybody, that should happen. So we're looking forward to that.
So for those who don't know what it is, explain what exactly Abbey Road on the River. Obviously, there's a Beatle reference, but beyond that, many people might not know. What does it entail? Is it a weekend event or lots of bands? Tell us about it.
Well, it happens usually at the Memorial Day weekend, which is really, it kind of encompasses the Thursday to the Monday, which is 5 days. So the promoter, Gary Jacob, really an amazing person with a great skill to do this. He puts this together, and he brings bands from all over the world, and most of them are not famous there, but a lot of them are very professionals like us, and there's some amateur bands, and he brings us all together, and we have again it's 5 full days, and then he brings in a few headliners, like the Little River Band. He had keyboard player for the Rascals. What's his? Oh, Felix. And he had Leon Russell the year before he passed away. And he had the Beach Boys, and he had House Hills. I think it was last year, the year before, and that's great. Vanilla Fudge. So he's got a lot of great headliners. I think Tommy James is supposed to appear, excuse me, this year. So that's what he does. And it has to do with, excuse me, the genre, 60s, and some other things. So it's basically it's Beatles inspired, but it's mostly a 60s type festival. So we do our versions of Beatles songs, and plus we do a lot of covers of 60s music and things like that. Do some Motowns and Secret Agent Man, some of those really cool tunes like that. So, and about 25,000 people show up. So it's pretty okay.
That's pretty cool. So if you had to, like, when was it? What's the? I mean, obviously we have a Beatle connection in common, you and I.
Sure,
But
yeah.
what were some of the bands? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot age wise, but when you were growing up, you know, what was on the radio and what was inspiring you in addition to the Beatles?
Well, my mom, they're not native here. My parents came from the Caribbean, so my mom was enamored of television and variety shows, and she loved rock and roll music. Good figure. So we used to watch the variety shows in the late 50s, early 60s. There was, Steve Allen, and there was, Ed Sullivan, and the Red Skelton Show. There was all sorts of shows and country shows like, Tennessee Ernie Ford and things like that. So I had all that influence growing up. There was, like I said, Tennessee Ernie Ford, Lawrence Welk, amazing musicians to play in that band. You couldn't be obliged to play in that band. So anyway, it was amazing because it was a cross section of everything. You'd watch Ed Sullivan and you'd see, Buddy Holly, and then there'd be a juggler or an opera singer. So it was an amazing time. So you were able, just by watching the few networks that were on, you can get an amazing amount of music. So my Elvis and Roy Orbison and all those guys, you can tell by the way I look, Roy Orbison and Elvis and all those guys were big influences on me. They were huge, especially the way they sang. It's just amazing.
What is it about the Beatles though? Like, what is it? I mean, for you, what is it that makes them just above everyone else? Like, what is it? There's people like us that can talk Beatle all night, and you played with people related to Beatles and people playing in bands with Beatles. What is it for you that just makes them that thing?
They were well, first of all, I guess I was too young to realize it, but it was I was drawn to that like a magnet. When I saw them on the Ed Sullivan Show in February of '64, I wasn't quite 11 yet, and it was the enthusiasm and the way they just tore into it. It was just total energy, complete energy, just all energy, and they they were so good looking and so handsome, and so they were just an amazing. They were as amazing to watch as they were to listen to. And to me, it's all about energy. I mean, I think from being with us for a long time, we're a high energy band. So I think that translates into the things that we do. So I think that's mostly the influence that I've gotten from them. Another thing that really struck me as I got older, though, and as I got older and I started playing, that their creativity was next to none. I mean, they took Smokey Robinson tunes and the Shirelles tunes and made it their own. I mean, they didn't try to imitate. They just created with the chords and the lyrics and the harmonies. They just created all that. So they reinterpreted the music that they heard, that they absorbed. So that's another thing that was very important to me. Again, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was drawn to that creativity. I especially like Boys by Ringo. I mean, that's insane. The amount of energy that's in that, and John Lennon's interpretation of Arthur Alexander's Anna. Just beautiful, beautiful. And one more thing, if you'll allow me to expand, because I love this subject. This is a great subject.
It is.
The influences that they themselves had as individuals. John was totally into rock and roll, totally. If I remember my biography is correct. But Paul had a different influence where his dad used to play in a band. So Paul had, and you could probably hear it in his music, and it's evident in his music, that he had the influence of show tunes and old time folk music and things, from that's from the area and all that stuff. But you could hear it. I mean, in the '76 tour, he did the song "You Gave Me the Answer," right?
Right.
I could hear
Stars, yeah.
Right, that's fantastic. So he had all those influences, and George again, he used to like Chet Atkins and all that, and that kind of guitar style. So
the rockabilly stuff.
yeah, exactly. So put all that together, and Ringo's. I don't think there's been a lot of talk about Ringo, about his drumming, but I think it's pretty well decided already that he was a fantastic drummer, and in the fact that he created for the song. He created parts for the song, which any other drummer would be playing a swing beat or whatever, something, but he would just create for that song. I mean, Ticket to Ride is a great example of that. Those
And
were
I've
all,
seen the video where he explains Ticket to Ride and how he's on the back end of the beat. I mean, it's interesting to hear him talk about it, because for years people would slag it off, like they say, and be like, he wasn't that great. He was just, the other guys. But, and the other song I was going to bring up that you do as the Criers is you do a more obscure George Harrison song, Horse to Water.
Right.
What made you, what attracted you, of all the George stuff out there, what attracted you to that one?
It was well, first of all, this is his last song that he wrote and recorded. I heard at the concert for George was the first time I heard it. And Sam Brown, the female vocalist, did an amazing job of it. And I said to Belle, we were watching the concert at the time, because I bought the DVD and all that. And I said, we're going to do this song. And I've heard, and then I bought the Brainwashed album, and it was on there. And poor George could barely sing. But it's such a bluesy, hard rocking tune. It said, oh, that's the Criers. We got to play that song. Got to cover that song. So that we love that song. It's a great tune.
The other thing you did, staying on the Beatles theme here, is you guys did like the whole Sgt. Pepper album for us.
Yes.
So like what makes one attempt that? I mean, it's not simple rock and roll. Like, it might be one thing to do things like Saw Her Standing There and whatever, but doing Sgt. Pepper and with your band, I mean, you don't have an orchestra behind you. You guys pulled that off. Well, what made you want to do Sgt. Pepper start to finish?
Well, the simple answer to that is that we're idiots. I mean, because nobody wants to do that with a 4-piece band. You got to be an idiot to do that. But well, what the heck? So we went ahead and did it, and I'll tell you what. I'll tell you why it worked. I'll tell you why it worked, because we approached it as a 4-piece band. We approached it just as a rock and roll song, with a bass, a guitar, drums, and a keyboard. And with the keyboard, do a few different sounds. And since the Criers sing, we figured we could cover some or most of the vocal parts. The hardest part about that, I have to say, because I'll be honest with you, Jeff, our guitar player, didn't like to do it because there was hardly no guitar playing in it. But there was a lot of subtlety in it. But he didn't like to do it. But hope he doesn't mind, bringing him out there like that. But he didn't like to do it. But for the bass playing was really hard, and so I approached it like I approach every time I do a cover. As long as I'm in the neighborhood, I'm okay. I listen to rhythms, and how the rhythm goes with the drums and how all that works together. As a bass player, that's what you have to do. You have to kind of, you're a drummer with notes, really. So I kind of approached it that way, and it was a lot of fun to do that, because I created a lot of parts. I think, when we did that, we did Keith Putney, whom the agent, he sent us out to, was it New Hampshire or one of those places, and up in the northeast up there. And hi, Christopher. and we had to do 3 albums. We had to do Sgt. Pepper, Revolver, and Rubber Soul.
Oh, geez. And
we did it. And we did it in a small bar. You could have fit like 50 people in there. And we had Denny and Steve, because we did a show, because that was the deal. We do a Beatle album a night. We played for 3 days. We did a Beatle album a day, and then we do the show with Denny. Let me see. I signed up for a. Hang on. We did later. Okay, good. Okay. Error message kept poking the screen. So anyway, so that was a lot of fun. But I think our approach was that we just play it as a 4-piece band, and that's why it kind of worked. Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Joe. It was pretty good.
I really appreciate that, Caswell. Thank you.
Really, really.
Really appreciate it.
Did you know that Uncle Terry Sylvester, when he did our show a few weeks ago, he did it in his bathrobe?
Uh, I will tell you a story about Uncle Terry.
Please
we
do.
were we were we were playing in, I think it was New Mexico. Yes, it was New Mexico, and it was really a beautiful place, and we were playing at this really nice theater. But our accommodations were amazing. We stayed at this place where they used to film movies out in the desert. So John Wayne and all those people, they were filming all sorts of, the Westerns that they did out there. So all the rooms had, art, all those great actors' names on it. Beautiful place. I didn't realize it. I wonder if that's the place. No, I'm not sure. Anyway, but because we went to a place that was so high, it was, we could not breathe. And so I had my bass on my back, walking up the stairs, something pretty easy to do. I couldn't get halfway up the stairs. I couldn't breathe. But I don't remember if that's the place. But getting back to Terry, we were, we were just lounging around the hotel, seeing what was open, and they had a gift shop. All of a sudden, Terry comes down, on public, down the stairs, and he's in his bathrobe. He's in the gift shop in his bathrobe, looking, whatever at the store. And I'm like, God, I hope he's wearing underwear. So anyway, so that's a fun recollection I have of Terry. They're all fun, but
They really are. He's the funniest guy. In fact, the night we had him on, he was on for over an hour, which we never go that long because it's supposed to be a 30-minute show. And yeah. he was just so crazy. I just couldn't get a word in edgewise. So Ben, my producer, renamed it, instead of Ask Caswell, the show was called, he put Ask Terry. And
Terry, I saw the replay of that. Hysterical.
He doesn't know how to use his phone really, so he's like kind of in the dark, and he's like holding his phone, and I'm like, oh. Geez.
All you can see is a reflection of the light in his glasses. That's all you can see. Pretty fun.
Well, what are you gonna do? Well, listen, Joe, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us today. I know nobody can see anybody, and so this is as close as we get, and it stinks that we're not going to have you this summer to play that concert.
Oh yeah,
Coley. I know it stinks, but we'll figure out a way to meet when everybody can be normal again, if there's ever going to be normal,
Who knows?
But thank you for taking the time, and give my love to your wife and to Belle and to Jeff and to everyone else.
Will do, Caswell. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Joe.
Take care. Good night. Bye-bye.
Right. Good night. All right. So that was Joe Orlando from an amazingly great group called Ask Terry. There's the Ask Terry thing that Ben put up right there. From when Terry Sylvester was on the show. Joe is just him and Belle and Jeff, and they several different great drummers, including Steve Holley from Wings. And Joe he's just like me when it comes to, we're just like each other when it comes to our love for the Beatles and for playing with some of these great people that he has played with over the years, and that I've gotten to play with some of them, him way more than me. And it's everyone loves when the Criers come to Mesquamaket. It's been a tradition now for 13, 14 years, and this is going to be the first summer we're going to be Crierless, which stinks because we always look forward to it. And I know Joe looks forward to his lobster roll, I hope. And anyway, so what are you going to do? So listen, sorry. I didn't have my water or anything to drink tonight. So listen, tomorrow night's going to be an amazing night as well. We really want you to tune in tomorrow night as well. We have this amazing musician from the 1960s who started, he's not from the 60s, he started in the 60s. He's still going strong. He still sounds unbelievable. His name is Gary Puckett. You remember the band Gary Puckett and the Union Gap. You know their songs, Young Girl, Get Out of My Mind. That's Gary Puckett. And he is going to be my guest tomorrow night on the show, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. So if you want a true, huge hits Gary Puckett had with those songs. And he is going strong. And this summer he's back with the Happy Together tour, as well as his own dates. He plays all over the place. I've seen him. I don't even know where I've seen him. I've seen him more than once. I've seen him like Mohegan Sun, places like that. And he always puts on a great show. He has an amazing band. His keyboard player is just unbelievable. He can make it. His keyboard sounds like the orchestra on the original records. It's just absolutely nuts. So we're really, 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 I'm really, 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 Joe, I'm really excited to have Gary Puckett on tomorrow night. So that being said, I'm going to go binge watch more stuff on Netflix. And on a personal note, we had some bad news today. My restaurant, the Haven Express, which is located at the Dunes Park in Mesquamaket, the Dunes Park has decided they're not going to open this summer as a public parking area, which means that I won't be able to open my business with Bob Barber, my business partner. So, this COVID thing, while the effects of people dying and things like that is way more than this, it is affecting the economy in a bad way. And it came home to me last night when I got that email saying, we'll see you in 2021, that I can't open my summer business. Had a summer business in Mesquamaket since 1993, since I was 19 years old. So definitely going to be sad for us this summer. I'll be experiencing clam fritter withdrawal. So I'll have to go down to our sister place, Two Little Fish, down the street. But the good news is we get to open our Mesquamaket Beach Drive-In. So that's cool. So we're opening that May 15th and 16th. And we might expand that to more than just 2 or 3 days a week. We might expand that if that's one of the only things we can do this summer for entertainment. And we have been selling them out. The first 4 we put on sale sold out like within a half hour each. That may be something. So, there's always a silver lining somewhere, I guess. But we're working on figuring out in our town of Westerly how Mesquamaket Beach is going to open, what it's going to look like. It will be open. What it looks like, how the rules are going to be. We should find out from the governor a little more this week. And that's about all I have for now. So thank you all for watching tonight. Tune in tomorrow night at 8 o'clock for Gary Puckett in the Union Gap. Well, no, just Gary Puckett. And thank you all for watching. Good night, everybody. Good night. Thanks, Joe Orlando. And good night, Mom.